So feeding my starter, which is so healthy. It actually is. It was almost dead, but then I revived it. So here she be. So you discard. This is what it's going to look like after it's been in the fridge for about 5 days, maybe, without feeding it. Some people feed it every day. I don't. So I'm just going to discard the majority of this. So I have about a tablespoon left, as you can see, more or less. Probably more. No, probably about a tablespoon. That's all you really need. And then you're just going to dump a very precise measurement of a bunch of flour. Really, there is no specific amount you should have, because it really just depends on how much you want. How much starter do you want? How much bread are you going to be making? You know, if you're going to be making 50 loaves, you're not going to be, you know, making, you don't want only 3 cups of starter. But you don't want a bajillion cups of starter if you're only making a few loaves. So then you just dump in water to the point, and you're going to get the feel of this. Like I said, there's not really measurements. You just do it until it's, you know, like the consistency of, it's like maybe pancake batter. Like you can see that's way too dry. So I'm just going to get like a bunch more water. Like this. Consistency now. See, it's kind of like, I don't know, pancake batter, but like thicker a little. You can kind of see. Basically, you just don't want it dry, and you don't want it to be like super wet. Even if it is, it'll honestly probably be fine. It's really not that like testy. And you can see mine is filled, let's see, like a little over, no, probably about half or a little over half. It's probably gonna spill over. I should have kept it below the half level mark, but it doesn't really matter. And then I'm gonna just stick the lid on top like that. Don't close it, because it needs to breathe and it needs to get that bacteria in there. And then, okay, don't look inside my microwave. It's super dirty. But I put mine in my microwave and I just leave the door open like that. So look at that little warm little incubator in there. And she's just gonna thrive. You need your scale. You just turn it on. It needs to be one with a tear. You put whatever container you're gonna use. This one is enough for 4 loaves. So it's about 8 quarts. So yeah, 2 quarts. It's gonna probably be filled to 4, but it's gonna double pretty much. So I'm gonna tear it. So for making 2 loaves, you need 700 grams. So I'm gonna go ahead and put 1,400 in here.
You're going this way.
This is the morning, by the way. Okay, I'm gonna tear it. I'm gonna get out my starter that I put in the night before. And look. Can you, look at that. Look at that. This is alive. This is ready. This is floaty. This is bubbly, effervescent. Definitely active. Okay. So you need 200, I think it's 250. I don't know. I always put 250 per 2 loaves. So I'm going to put 500 in here. And you're going to be able to see it float. See how that floats? That's the way you know it's active, because the mother's consumed enough sugar and she's released enough oxygen and alcohol that it creates those bubbles. Okay, can you please leave that it's airy, it's aerated. So that's how you know. That's why it's active, because every time she eats the sugar, the gluten strands, then she releases oxygen in the form of bubbles, and well, whatever, I guess, release oxygen, it becomes trapped, and there you have your bubbles. So you're just gonna give that a quick mix with your hands. And yeah, just a quick little mix. Okay, and then you're gonna tear it. You can do any kind of ratio between different kinds of flours. You can do part rye, you can do part whole wheat, you can do just whatever you want. I always do straight up white because I don't feel like buying different kinds of flour. And I know it's terrible. I'm sure a lot of people think I'm terrible, but I really don't care. So for every 2 loaves, it's going to be 1,000 grams total of whatever kind of flour you have. So if you're going to do rye, then you might do like 200 grams rye and 800 grams white or whatever. Don't do too much of something like hearty. You want to have most of it be white. Otherwise, your loaf is going to be dense and there won't be enough gluten for the mother to eat. And so it's not going to rise as effectively. So I'm going to be putting 2,000 since I'm making 4 loaves. Just make sure this doesn't spill everywhere. I'm at the bottom of my sack here, so I'm just pouring it out, which might not be a good idea. Almost at 2,000. Am I going to have enough? Am I going to have enough? Am I going to have enough? Wait, yep. I'm just going to take a little bit of that back out. That's good. And now I'm just going to mix it. You're just mixing it, and don't add your salt yet. This is not the stage in which you add your salt. It needs to rest in a process called auto-leasing before you add your salt. So you're just going to mix this up, and when this is completely mixed, we're going to let it sit for 40 minutes, covered, of course, in a semi-warm spot. You don't need to put it in your microwave like I did the starter. It doesn't have to be that warm. Otherwise, your bread is going to develop quickly, which if that's what you want, then you can definitely do that. But I would say the flavors are more complex and a little bit better when it's cold. Not cold, sorry. Like, not so warm, because when it develops quickly, it's just going to be less. It's going to be too quick. But, like, in Mexico, sometimes it'd be so cold because we didn't have heat, obviously. And so in the wintertime, it'd get really cold and it would take so long. And even then, by the end of the day, it would be like, so I had to put it in a place that was warmed. So you don't want to leave any dry flour bits because then those will not, you just make sure it's well mixed. And you can squeeze it as much as you want at this point. Later on in the process, you're going to want to be really gentle because you don't want to be popping those air bubbles. But at this point, we just put in the mother, so hasn't really started eating yet. So there's no oxygen's been released yet, no bubbles, nothing like that. So you can just go at it. And that's good. The best way to get it off your hands is just to use a little bit of water and just pull off the dough. And every time you do a turn from now on, just dip your hand in water first, and it'll keep it from sticking to your hands. 50. Okay, so are you ready? Yeah. Okay, so take your cover off. You're gonna put it up here. Oops, I forgot to turn on my scale. Yikes. Okay, turn on your scale. If you don't feel like tearing, just stick it on before it calibrates, and it does the same thing. All right, so this is the stage in which you're going to add your salt and a little bit of water. So 20 grams for 2 loaves. So since I'm making 4, 20 plus 20, 40. Dump her in the middle there. Okay, tare it, and then you're going to do 50 grams water per 2 loaves. So I'm going to do 100. And try and just kind of do it right on top of the salt because you want the salt to dissolve in the water. Just mix that around like that, and then you can still squeeze it. At this stage, you can still squeeze it, but this time when you squeeze it, you're going to start to feel those bubbles. But it's fine. It's still early on, so don't worry. Just because you really want to make sure the salt gets in there. Also, at this stage, you can add raisins. Just moisturize them before you put them in. Like, wait, what do you call it? Not moisturize. That's like with lotion. What do you call it? Like when you soak them? Hydrate. Hydrate raisins or currants or whatever you're going to put in. And you can put in like orange peel, orange zest or whatever. You could put in cardamom or coriander or cinnamon. I always get mixed up which one I'm supposed to put in with the raisins. So sometimes I just do all of them and it's really yummy. You just like put in different spices and whatever. And see, since I put my hand in, it's like not as sticky this time. Okay, so now from this point on, we got a detail. The flour you use, I forgot to say this last time. Just cover this up for another 30 minutes. But I forgot to say this last time. But the flour you use, make sure it's unbleached. Because
when they bleach it, it like changes the structure of it, and the bread does not turn out as good. And I know because in Mexico you can basically no, you can get unbleached. I forget what it was. Oh yeah, unbleached, but also with no vitamins added to it. Because if you add vitamins to it, it also changes it. In Mexico, that's what it was. You can't get flour without added vitamins, and it just doesn't rise as good. It's just not as like, you know, good. So unbleached without added vitamins, and